In this video, I cover the assumptions I'll be making about your level of knowledge in various areas, as well as the technical requirements for the course. Now, even though this is a course aimed at web designers, we aren't actually dealing with design concepts here. What we're looking at, in part, is how to implement designs in WordPress, and that's done using a combination of PHP, the scripting language that powers WordPress, HTML, and of course, cascading style sheets, or CSS. Now, we won't actually be doing work with CSS per se, but of course I'll assume that you have a good working knowledge of it because that's going to be your main tool for implementing a design in WordPress. A good working knowledge of HTML is also going to be important as we look at constructing templates in WordPress. Even if you're used to working in programs like Dreamweaver, you should at least be familiar with the basic concepts and tags used in HTML. I won't assume any knowledge of PHP. I'll be doing a video on some of its basic concepts, but you're not going to need a lot of PHP knowledge to be able to work with the basics of WordPress. And while WordPress utilizes MySQL databases, WordPress has its own query functions, so you won't need a knowledge of working directly with databases. A familiarity with PHPMyAdmin or other database interface tools will also be helpful when it comes to the occasional troubleshooting issue. Now, if you've never worked with a content management system at all, like Blogger, Joomla, .NET Nuke, shopping cart systems, website builders, and so on, you're okay because WordPress is quite easy to pick up. If you have worked with any of these, though, you'll see a lot of similarities when we're going through the various parts of WordPress's interface. Very familiar to you, I'm sure. Now, as far as technical requirements for the course are concerned, obviously, you're going to need a copy of WordPress, and I'll deal with that during the video on installation. Since WordPress is a web application, you're going to need either a hosting account online, where you can install WordPress, or an offline hosting environment right on your machine, such as WAMP and MAMP and LAMP. Those are all acronyms for Apache, MySQL, PHP. It combines all of those programs into one so that on your Linux machine or your Macintosh or your Windows, you can actually have your own web server. I tend to prefer myself to work online. I have my own development server, so I do that online, but you might want to work off your machine. So these packages, and there's many of them, are well worth looking at. And finally, if you don't already have a text editor, that's going to be a key tool for us. Now, you don't want to use Word or any kind of word processor program. It has to be a text editor. And in Windows, three of the ones that I've often worked with are Notepad++, PSPad, and Komodo Edit. And on the Mac, I use actually Text Wrangler, which is the free version of BB Edit. BB Edit is very, very powerful. Another great one is TextMate. So these are some ones to look at. There are many more out there, but it must be a bare bones text editor. And finally, you'll need an FTP program, a file transfer program. Even if you work initially on your machine in a local environment, you're obviously going to have to get the files onto the server at some point. So an FTP program is needed as well. So those are some of the presuppositions I have with going into the course, some of the technical requirements you're going to need as we move along.